Week 10 is upon us as the Minnesota Vikings look to improve their record to 7-2, facing off against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. And to say that the Jags are struggling would be an understatement. They are 2-7. With that said, 5 of their 7 losses have been within one score, as this video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. You can never take a team for granted. We certainly learned that. I certainly have learned that after the 5-0 start. And I said, all right, they can go 15-2, worst case scenario, best case 16-1, 17-0, even better. But getting punched in the face, getting a dose of reality the previous 2 games before the victory against the Indianapolis Colts, I understand that you cannot take a team for granted. That's how you get got. That said, the Jacksonville Jaguars are struggling in terms of health. The latest injury report for Jacksonville, their running back 1 and 2 categorized as limited, 2 starting offensive linemen, DNPs, their wide receiver 1 and 2 listed as limited. Trevor Lawrence dealing with a shoulder injury, may or may not play. So there's a chance that you may end up seeing Mac Jones at quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, 30th in completion percentage, not great. He's been struggling clearly. That said, I don't know where you put the blame at, because watching Lawrence at Clemson, I was saying to myself, as well as everybody else, were saying not only to themselves, but out loud, that, oh my God, this is the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. And he just hasn't lived up to that since coming into the league. They are top half in the league in drop passes, so his receivers certainly aren't helping out. I'm sure as hell not going to blame the head coach. I saw what Doug Peterson did with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles. 2017, Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate. He gets hurt. In comes Nick Foles, who's been a journeyman his entire career. They end up winning the Super Bowl with Nick Foles playing at an incredibly high level. And it wasn't just a one-off, because the following year, 2018, Carson Wentz, he was okay, not nearly as good as his 2017 performance, but still good nonetheless. He gets hurt again. In comes Nick Foles again under Doug Peterson. And guess what? They win the wild card round on the road at Soldier Field against the Chicago Bears. They then go on the road again, nearly beating the New Orleans Saints at the Superdome. Doug Peterson has the resume that shows that he knows what he's doing when it comes to quarterbacks. So if anything, Trevor Lawrence, I feel like he is failing the head coach here. Just my 2 cents. But Mac Jones, if he does end up playing, don't sleep on him. I know what we saw from him over in New England was god awful. That said, he's a lot more relaxed now. You can tell that ever since he got to Jacksonville, he immediately started doing photo shoots and with shades on and smiling from ear to ear. I don't think I've ever seen him smile one time over there in New England, except for when he got drafted. Certainly not in a Patriots jersey, but a guy who clearly appears to be happier in his new job, a lot less stress compared to his old job. In the event that you end up playing Mac Jones instead of Trevor Lawrence, don't get caught slipping. Don't think, oh, this is the dude who was a bust with the New England Patriots and we're going to take care of business. No, a guy that is going to, I would assume, he's going to come into the game feeling like he has nothing to lose. Prepare for this guy as if he's Patrick Mahomes. Offensively, they're going to be banged up, whether it's at receiver, offensive line, running back, quarterback, all over the place. They're going to be banged up somewhere come Sunday. The pass rush needs to get after it. As I explained earlier, the Jaguars are top half in the league in drop passes. There are going to be some tip balls that go up in the air. So the pass rush needs to get pressure on the quarterback, get him off base for errant passes, or even if you can't get to the quarterback in time, those tip passes that are going to go up in the air, the secondary, the back half of the defense needs to be ready to turn those tip balls into interceptions. Ivan Pace Jr., DNP, dealing with a knee injury in the latest injury report. Blake Cashman, maybe he returns. It's looking a lot better. He is or was listed as a limited participant. So, I mean, I can't imagine the scenario where both of these guys are out. It obviously you want both of them in, but worst case scenario, can we at least have one of our starting inside linebackers? That would be great. That said, going back to the Colts game when Pace got hurt, you saw multiple times from Brian Flores where you had Camus Grugier-Hill as well as AVG playing inside while Dallas Turner took over AVG's role playing as edge rusher. Brian Flores, he knows what he's doing. I think the Vikings defense should absolutely dominate. They should force at least 3 turnovers. And we're going to get to the Vikings offense, but first, sign up for BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. Get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Just use the promo code YouTube150, baby. And now for the Vikings offense going up against the Jags defense. Cam Robinson, I think it does start with him. He is going to view this game as an opportunity for revenge to prove to his former team that they messed up. They screwed up by letting him go. Going up against his former team, his former teammates, Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. He had a really good debut last week against the Colts as a Minnesota Viking, his first game. I expect for him to play with some extra oomph in his performance. He's going to want to get after it. Garrett Bradbury and Ed Ingram versus Eric Armstead in pass protection, probably not going to be great. That said, the run blocking bounced back like crazy against the Colts this past Sunday night, so I expect for that to continue. The Jaguars giving up an average of 125 yards on the ground. Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, this game is screaming for you guys to go off. I expect a combined 160 yards at least on the ground between our 2 running backs. The Jaguars also defensively 31st in pass defense, bottom half in sacks, 2 interceptions on the year, tied for second worst in the league. Sam Darnold, hey bro, this game is setting itself up for you to have maybe your best performance of the year, where we can get back to that 5-0 Vikings Sam Darnold. And I'm going to trust for that to come to fruition, so much so that I believe Jefferson and Addison will get a touchdown apiece. And I do believe, at least for me anyway, the one glaring concern for this Vikings team, not just in this game, but moving forward for a while, is the kicking game. Because Will Reichert turned out he ended up playing with an injured leg, his kicking leg, so he's no longer Mr. Perfect. Not only that, he's now going on IR. So the injury is severe enough where he's going to miss at least the next 4 games. They signed John Parker Romo off the street. So I would caution Vikings fans, don't freak out if he misses a kick or 2. Give him some time. I would expect for that to at least be a problem, but maybe work its way up. We'll see how John Parker Romo does while Will Reichert is out. Don't take this team for granted. I expect for this team to come in wanting all the smoke, treating the Jaguars like they're a Super Bowl contender, and they're going to get after it. My score prediction for this game, the Vikings will win this game 28-13. And before we get in, or before we close this video, real quick, reflecting off of the trade deadline, the Vikings, they didn't make a move, or at least a move by the trade deadline after already making moves for Cam Akers and Cam Robinson. I'm not going to sit here and say, Kwesi, you failed, you effed up, what are you doing? Why didn't you make a move? Because it takes 2 teams to agree to make a trade happen. For instance, Jeffrey Simmons, that was one of the guys that we were clamoring for on this channel. Josina Anderson, NFL Insider, does a fantastic job. She tweeted out during Tuesday's trade deadline, or before the trade deadline, that I spoke with a team representative that said they reached out to the Titans to gauge a trade for Jeffrey Simmons, and that team representative said that the Titans said no. So if the Titans aren't going to trade away Jeffrey Simmons, and let's say, assuming that they did their due diligence, the Vikings going after Dexter Lawrence or J.C. Horn or whoever, if the team says no, what can you really do? You could say Marshawn Lattimore, he ended up going to the Washington Commanders. That's a corner. Why didn't you trade for him? But the one thing I will say in Kwesi's defense there is that, okay, with the history between the Vikings and the Saints and how much they don't like each other, even though for at least the Vikings, I don't know if the Saints, if it's different, but I know the Vikings is different compared to '09 NFC Championship game. This is a different regime. But still, that animosity between these two organizations would say Kwesi did call the Saints. Hey, we want Marshawn Lattimore. I'm willing to bet that the Saints said no. No thanks. We don't want to deal with you guys. We'll go ahead and send him over to Washington. So I'm going to choose to believe that Kwesi did all he could, especially forcing Jacksonville to take on an extra $7 million of his remaining salary this year, that they were trying to position themselves to make another trade. I'm going to choose to believe that Kwesi did everything he could by the trade deadline to make something big happen, and it just didn't work out. The live stream is going to be on Sunday, and it's going to start at 11:45 Central Standard Time for all of those that expressed interest in being a moderator. For most of you, I've added you. I'm going to add the rest of you guys in just a little bit, but I appreciate you guys taking this on. We got to get rid of these spammers, man. Last week was crazy. Again, shout out to BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. 28-13 is my prediction for the Vikings to get this win. We'll see you on Sunday.